Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Easy English Podcast. I am Hana, and as always, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Alex.
Hi, Hana, and hello to all our listeners around the world. I am so excited for today's episode. We have a really funny and very relatable story to share today.
Yes, we do. Today we are talking about a situation that has probably happened to many of us. It is the classic, slightly embarrassing story of getting locked out of your own home.
Oh, absolutely. Getting locked out is stressful enough, but today's story has a little twist. It involves being locked out while wearing, pajamas?
Exactly. This actually happened to me last Tuesday morning, and I thought it would be the perfect way to teach our listeners some great everyday English vocabulary and phrases.
Wait, this really happened to you last week? Hana, you have to tell us everything. How did it start?
Well, it started like any normal Tuesday. I woke up at about 7 o'clock. I was still very sleepy, wearing my favorite bright pink pajamas with little yellow ducks on them.
Bright pink pajamas with ducks. That sounds very comfortable, but maybe not the best outfit for a public hallway.
Exactly. I went to the kitchen, made myself a hot cup of coffee, and then I realized I needed to grab the morning newspaper from just outside my front door. Usually, I just open the door, reach my hand out, and grab it.
But that is not what happened this time, right?
No, not at all. I opened the door, stepped 1 foot out into the hallway, and then I heard a small sound behind me. It was a soft click.
Oh no, the dreaded click. That is the worst sound in the world when you are outside your apartment.
Yes, a gust of wind had blown through the open window in my living room and pushed the front door shut. The door locked automatically. I stood there in the cold hallway, holding nothing but a cup of warm coffee.
Wow, so you were literally locked out. Let's pause for a second, Hana, because locked out is a very useful phrasal verb. Can you explain what it means?
Of course. To be locked out means you are on the outside of a room, house, or car, and you cannot get inside because the door is locked and you do not have the key.
Right. For example, I left my keys on the kitchen table, so now I am locked out of my apartment. Or, he got locked out of his car at the supermarket.
Perfect examples, Alex. So there I was, locked out in my duck pajamas. No phone, no keys, just my coffee. I started to panic a little bit.
I can only imagine. What was your first thought?
My first thought was, I hope nobody sees me. The hallway was quiet, but then I heard footsteps coming up the stairs.
Oh, this is getting interesting. Who was it?
It was my neighbor, Mr. Green. He is a very nice, polite older man who always wears a neat suit. He was walking up the stairs, carrying his briefcase, probably on his way to work.
Oh, the contrast. A man in a professional suit and you in pink duck pajamas. What did you do?
I tried to act completely normal. I took a sip of my coffee, looked at him, and said, "Good morning, Mr. Green. Lovely weather today, isn't it?"
No way. You try to make small talk. That is hilarious. Small talk is another great phrase for our listeners. It means polite, casual conversation about unimportant things like the weather.
Yes, I tried to make small talk because I was too embarrassed to immediately say, "Help, I am locked out." But Mr. Green just stopped and looked at my pajamas, then at my bare feet, and then at my closed door.
He probably figured it out pretty quickly. What did he say?
He smiled warmly and said, "Are you having a bit of trouble, Hana?" I sighed and decided to tell him the truth. I said, "Yes, Mr. Green. I accidentally got locked out. The wind blew my door shut."
To get locked out or to shut are so common. When a door shuts, it closes. Often we say a door slams shut if it closes quickly and loudly, like with the wind.
Yes, it definitely slammed shut. I told him, "I feel so silly. I just wanted to grab the newspaper and now I am stuck here."
Being stuck is another wonderful word. It means you are in a position or a place and you cannot move or leave, like being stuck in traffic or, in this case, stuck in the hallway.
Exactly, I was stuck. But Mr. Green was incredibly helpful. He didn't laugh at my pajamas at all. He immediately offered to help.
That is so kind of him. Neighbors can really save the day in these situations. What did he suggest?
He said, "Don't worry, Hana. My wife is at home. Why don't you come inside our apartment, have a seat, and we can call the building manager?"
Ah, the building manager. That is the person who is in charge of looking after the apartment building, and they usually have a master key to open any door.
Yes, they do. But before we called the manager, I had to walk into Mr. Green's apartment. His wife, Mrs. Green, was in their kitchen. She looked so surprised when she saw me walk in wearing pink ducks and holding a mug of coffee.
I would love to see the look on her face, but I'm sure she was very welcoming.
Very understanding. Did she offer you anything?
Yes, she actually laughed in a very friendly way and offered me a blanket because I was shivering a little bit from the draft in the hallway.
She was incredibly kind. She brought me this big, fluffy blue blanket to wrap around my shoulders. I felt like a giant burrito, but at least I was a warm burrito. And she even poured me a fresh cup of hot tea because my coffee had gone completely cold by then. That is what I call excellent neighborly service.
That is so sweet of her. You know, Hana, this whole situation is full of great English words that our listeners can use. Let's break down some of the vocabulary from your morning adventure. First, let's talk about what you are wearing. You said you had on your pajamas, right? But sometimes people call them PJs for short. Do you prefer pajamas or PJs?
I usually say PJs because it is shorter and more casual. For example, I cannot wait to go home and get into my PJs. It just sounds cozy. But there is another word people use for comfortable clothes we wear at home, right, Alex?
Yes, loungewear. That is a very popular word these days. Loungewear is a category of clothing designed for relaxing at home. It's a bit more stylish than old pajamas, but still super comfortable. Think of soft sweatpants, loose t-shirts, or those oversized hoodies. You could wear loungewear to answer the door or even to run a quick errand at the local grocery store without feeling embarrassed.
Ah, that is a key difference. You can wear loungewear in public, but you probably shouldn't wear your duck pajamas to the supermarket, unless, of course, you get locked out like I did. What about the word robe or bathrobe?
A bathrobe, or just a robe, is a loose piece of clothing you wear over your pajamas or after you take a shower. It usually ties around the waist with a belt. If you had been wearing a bathrobe, Hana, you might have felt a little more covered up in the hallway.
Definitely. A bathrobe would have saved me from some of the draft, too. Now, let's talk about the door itself. I locked myself out because the door closed behind me. But what about the different parts of a lock? My door has a regular lock, but some doors have a deadbolt. Can you explain what a deadbolt is?
Oh, a deadbolt is very important for home security. A regular lock on a doorknob can sometimes be pushed open with a credit card if it is not installed correctly. But a deadbolt is a heavy metal bolt that goes deep into the doorframe. You usually have to turn a key or a small knob from the inside to lock or unlock it. It is much stronger and much safer.
Yes, my apartment actually has both. Luckily, the deadbolt was not locked, just the main doorknob lock. If the deadbolt had been locked, even the building manager might have had a harder time getting in.
That is a very good point. Now, another word we use when we talk about keys is a spare key. A spare something means an extra one that you keep in case of an emergency. For example, a spare tire in your car or a spare key to your house. Hana, did you have a spare key anywhere?
I did have a spare key, but it was sitting right on my kitchen counter inside the apartment. Not very useful there, was it? Usually people give a spare key to a trusted friend, a family member, or sometimes they hide it outside.
Yes, hiding a spare key is common, but you have to be careful. Some people put it under the doormat, which is the worst place because everyone knows to look there. Or they hide it in a fake plastic rock in the garden. For apartment buildings, giving a spare key to a close neighbor like Mr. and Mrs. Green is usually the safest option.
I am definitely going to give them a spare key after this. So, back to the story. I was sitting in Mr. Green's living room, wrapped in the blue blanket, drinking tea. Mr. Green was on the phone trying to reach the building manager. He called the office, but it was only 7:30 in the morning. Do you think the manager answered, Alex?
At 7:30 a.m., that is pretty early for a manager to be in the office. I guess it went straight to voicemail. Or maybe there was an emergency number.
It did go to voicemail the first time, but Mr. Green is very persistent. He called the emergency maintenance line. Maintenance is the department that fixes things in the building, like plumbing, heating, or in this case, lockouts.
Ah, maintenance. That is a great word. We spell it M-A-I-N-T-E-N-A-N-C-E. It comes from the verb maintain, which means to keep something in good condition. So the maintenance team keeps the building working properly. Did they answer the emergency line?
They did. A very sleepy-sounding man answered. Mr. Green explained the situation. He said, "Hello, we have a tenant in Building B who is locked out of her apartment." A tenant is a person who rents and lives in an apartment. That was me.
Perfect vocabulary. A tenant is the person who pays rent, while the landlord or the property manager is the person who owns or manages the building. So, what did the sleepy maintenance man say to Mr. Green?
The maintenance man told Mr. Green that he could come over to unlock the door, but it would take about 45 minutes. He was currently on the other side of town. When Mr. Green told me this, I was so relieved, but also a bit worried. 45 minutes is a long time to wait in someone else's apartment when you are wearing pajamas with little yellow ducks on them.
I can only imagine. But this is a perfect time for us to do a quick role play for our listeners. Let's pretend I am a neighbor who doesn't know you very well, and you have just knocked on my door in your pajamas. Let's practice how to explain this embarrassing situation politely and ask for help.
Oh, that is an excellent idea, Alex. It is really important to know how to explain a weird situation without sounding too panicked. Let's start the role play now. I will knock on your door.
Ding dong, who is it?
Hi, I am so sorry to bother you. My name is Hannah. I live in apartment 4B, just across the hall. I have a bit of an emergency.
Oh, hello, Hannah. Is everything okay? You look a bit cold in those pajamas.
Yes, I am freezing, actually. I made a silly mistake. I stepped out to put my trash in the chute, and the door closed behind me. It locked automatically, and my keys are still inside my apartment. I am completely locked out.
Oh dear, that is terrible. It happens to the best of us, don't worry. How can I help you?
Would it be possible for me to use your phone to call the building manager? My phone is also locked inside my apartment, so I cannot call anyone.
Of course, please come inside out of the cold hallway. You can use my landline or I can dial the number on my mobile phone for you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your kindness. I promise I won't take up too much of your time.
And scene. That was wonderful, Hana. You used some really useful phrases there. Let's break down some of the language you used for our listeners.
Yes, let's do that. First, I started with, "I am so sorry to bother you." This is a very common and polite way to start a conversation when you are interrupting someone or asking for unexpected help. To bother means to annoy or interrupt someone.
Exactly. It shows that you respect their time. Another great phrase you used was, "I have a bit of an emergency." Using "a bit of" makes the situation sound less scary. If you just scream, "I have an emergency," your neighbor might think the building is on fire.
That is so true. You want to show it is important, but you don't want to terrify them. Then I explained exactly what happened using simple words. I stepped out, the door closed, it locked automatically. Using the word automatically is key here. It means the lock works by itself without you turning a key.
Yes, many modern apartment doors lock automatically. And then you asked for help very politely. You said, "Would it be possible for me to use your phone?" This is much more polite than saying, "Can I use your phone?"
Definitely. Would it be possible is a great structure for polite requests. You can use it in many situations. For example, would it be possible to borrow a pen? Or would it be possible to leave my bag here for a moment?
It sounds very gentle and gives the other person an easy way to say yes or no. And finally, you said, "I promise I won't take up too much of your time." The phrasal verb take up here means to fill or use space or time. So to take up time means to use someone's time.
Right. It tells the neighbor that you understand they are busy and you will not stay longer than necessary. It is a very reassuring thing to say.
It really is. Now, let's go back to your real story with Mr. Green. You were waiting in his living room in your pajamas, and the maintenance man said he would arrive in 45 minutes. What did you and Mr. Green do while you waited?
Well, at first it was a little bit awkward. I didn't know him very well, and there I was sitting on his sofa looking ridiculous. But Mr. Green was so warm and friendly. He started telling me stories about when he was young.
That is the best way to pass the time. To pass the time means to do something to make the time go by faster. Did he have some interesting stories?
He had amazing stories. He used to be a ship captain. He traveled all over the world. He showed me photos of ships he sailed on and beautiful places he visited. I was so interested that I completely forgot I was wearing duck pajamas.
Wow, a ship captain. That is fascinating. It sounds like your embarrassing mistake actually turned into a really cool opportunity to make a new friend.
It really did. We drank 2 cups of tea, and just when he was showing me a photo of a sunset in Greece, the doorbell rang. It was the maintenance man.
Finally, the hero arrives with the master key.
Yes, he really was the hero of the day. He had this big ring of keys that jingled every time he walked. He smiled when he saw me in my pajamas, but he was very polite and didn't make any jokes. He just said, "Let's get you back inside your home, shall we?"
That is a relief. And relief is a great word for our listeners. It means a warm, happy feeling you get when something bad or stressful has ended. You can say, "It was such a relief when the rain stopped." Or, in your case, "It was a huge relief to see the maintenance man."
Exactly. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. We walked back to my door. He put the master key in, turned it, and with a soft click, the door opened. I was finally back inside my safe, warm apartment. I thanked the maintenance man about 10 times, and of course I went back to thank Mr. Green and return his key.
That is such a heartwarming ending to a stressful situation. It shows that sometimes bad luck can lead to a really nice human connection. But Hana, it also makes me think about how difficult it can be to communicate when you are in a panic or feeling embarrassed. Imagine trying to explain that situation in a language you are still learning.
Oh, definitely. When we are stressed, our brains freeze up. We might forget words, or our pronunciation might get a bit messy because we are rushing. That is why we wanted to share some pronunciation and communication tips today to help you stay calm and speak clearly during any unexpected household emergency.
Yes, let's look at some key tips. The first tip is simple but so important. Slow down and breathe. When we are scared or embarrassed, we tend to speak very fast. This makes it harder for the other person to understand our accent or our words. Take one deep breath before you speak.
That is so true, Alex. My mother always told me, speak on the breath. This means you should let your air carry your words. When you are tense, your chest tightens and your voice gets high and squeaky. If you take a deep breath, your voice goes down to its natural, calm level, which sounds much more confident.
Great advice. Now, let's talk about specific words you might need to pronounce clearly in an emergency. For example, the word locked. It ends with a strong T sound, locked. Many English learners struggle with that final T sound, but it is super important. Hana, can you show us?
Sure. Listen closely. Locked. Locked. It's not locked with 2 syllables. It's just one sharp syllable with a crisp T at the end. You can practice saying, I am locked out. Try to connect the words naturally. I am locked out.
Perfect. Another word is emergency. It has 4 syllables. Emergency. The stress is on the second syllable, emergency. If you stress the wrong part, like saying emergency, people might have a hard time understanding you quickly. Let's practice that together. Emergency.
Emergency. It flows nicely when you get that rhythm down. Another tip for clear communication is to use short, simple sentences. Don't try to explain a long, complicated story when you are in trouble. Just give the most important facts first.
Yes, use the who, what, where rule. Who are you? I am your neighbor in apartment 4B. What is the problem? I am locked out of my apartment. What do you need? Can I please use your phone to call the manager?
That is incredibly helpful, Alex. Keeping sentences short also helps you control your pronunciation because you don't run out of breath. It keeps your grammar simple too, which means fewer mistakes and less frustration.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to use body language. If you forget the word for key or lock, you can make a turning motion with your hand or point to your door. Communication is not just about perfect words, it's about making yourself understood.
Exactly. Mr. Green understood me perfectly, even though I was stammering and pointing to my silly duck pajamas. Well, everyone, that brings us to the end of our episode today. We hope you enjoyed my little adventure and learned some useful words and tips for your own daily lives.
We certainly hope you don't get locked out in your pajamas anytime soon. But if you do, now you know exactly what to do and how to say it. Thank you so much for listening to Easy English Podcast. Stay safe, practice your English, and we will talk to you next time. Goodbye.